His name was Harold Whitman. He was 68 years old, retired from 31 years at a regional insurance office in Dayton, Ohio, and he had a habit that the staff at Miller's Family Diner had started to quietly notice. Every evening at exactly 8:15, he walked in alone, ordered the same cup of decaf coffee, and sat in the corner booth by the window until closing at 9, where he never ordered food. He rarely spoke beyond a polite thank you. And every night, without fail, his eyes would drift toward the woman behind the counter, watching her wipe down the tables, count the register, and flip the sign from open to closed. Diane was 59. She had worked at Miller's for 11 years, ever since her husband Frank passed from a heart attack in the garage, wrench still in his hand, fixing a lawnmower he never got to use again. She kept the diner running like it was hers, even though it belonged to a younger couple who mostly stayed out of the way. She liked the routine. She liked the smell of the fryer and the hum of the refrigerator case and the particular quiet that settled over the place in the last 15 minutes before close. She had noticed Harold, of course. Any woman who has spent a decade reading regulars would notice a man who came in every night and ordered nothing but coffee and silence. She assumed at first that he was lonely. Dayton was full of men like that, widowers or divorced fathers whose houses had gone quiet, who found any excuse to sit somewhere with lights on and voices around them. She'd seen enough of them come and go. Most stopped showing up after a few weeks, once the loneliness eased or they found somewhere else to spend it. But Harold kept coming. Rain, snow, the 4th of July when the diner nearly emptied out for fireworks downtown. He was there, in the corner, watching her close. It was a Tuesday in October when she finally set the coffee pot down, untied her apron and slid into the booth across from him instead of walking past it. "Can I ask you something?" she said. Harold looked up, and for a moment, something crossed his face that looked almost like relief, like a man who had been waiting a long time to be caught. "You can ask me anything," he said. "Why do you come here every night? You don't eat. You barely talk to anybody. You just sit here and watch me close up the diner." "I'm not trying to be rude, Harold, but 11 years of doing this job, you learn to notice a pattern, and yours has got me curious." He was quiet for a moment, turning the coffee cup slowly on its saucer. Diane thought maybe she'd embarrassed him. Maybe he'd apologize and stop coming, and some part of her, a part she hadn't examined too closely, didn't want that to happen. Diane didn't say anything. She had learned over the years that grief needed room to breathe before anyone tried to comfort it. "Carol used to close up her sister's flower shop every night," Harold went on. "Different kind of work than this, but the same rhythm to it. Same little dance, wiping counters, straightening things that didn't need straightening, turning off lights one by one like she was saying goodnight to the room. I used to drive over just to sit in the car and watch her through the window. 30 years of marriage, and I never got tired of watching my wife close up a shop. There was something about it. The stillness, the care she put into small things nobody else would notice." He looked up at Diane, and his eyes were wet, but he wasn't crying, not exactly. He had the look of a man who had made peace with sadness a long time ago and simply carried it with him now, the way some men carry a limp. "After she died, the house got so quiet I couldn't stand being in it past 8 o'clock. I tried a lot of things, bars, but I never liked drinking alone. The library, but it closed too early. Then one night I was driving around with nowhere to be, and I saw you through this window, wiping down that counter the exact way Carol used to wipe hers. Same little circles. Same way of checking behind you before you flipped that sign. I don't know how to explain it without sounding like a crazy old man, but watching you close up this diner is the closest I've felt to being home in 2 years." Diane sat with that for a long moment. She thought about Frank, about the way she used to watch him from the kitchen window fixing things in the garage that didn't need fixing, just so he'd have a reason to be near the house a little longer. She understood, more than Harold probably realized, what it meant to find comfort in watching someone do something ordinary. "I'm not her," Diane said quietly. "I know that's not what you're saying, but I want to say it anyway. I'm not Carol, and this isn't your flower shop." "I know that," Harold said. "I'm not confused about who you are, Diane. I know your name. I know you take your coffee break at 6:45, and you always check on the, Henderson's table twice because Mrs. Henderson has trouble hearing when her order's ready. I've been paying attention. Not because I think you're going to replace anybody. Just because paying attention to somebody again felt like something I needed to remember how to do. Something shifted in Diane's chest. Something she hadn't let herself feel in a long time. Not butterflies. Not yet. She was 59 years old and had buried a husband. She wasn't fool enough to call it that so soon, but it was something. A door that had been shut for 11 years creaking open half an inch. Frank used to fix things that weren't broken, she said. Just so he'd have an excuse to putter around near me a little longer. I never told him I knew that's what he was doing. I let him think he was fooling me. Harold smiled. The first real smile she'd seen from him in 3 months of nightly coffee. Maybe I've been fooling myself a little too, he said. Telling myself I just like the coffee here. Decaf you don't even finish, Diane said. And for the first time, they both laughed. Quiet and a little rusty, like two people remembering a language they hadn't spoken in years. She didn't ask him to stay longer that night. She had a register to close and floors to sweep, and some things shouldn't be rushed just because a door creaked open. But when she flipped the sign from open to closed, she glanced back at his booth instead of straight past it, and Harold was still there watching. The way he always did, except this time, when their eyes met, neither of them looked away. He came back the next night, same time, same booth, same coffee. But this time, when Diane finished wiping down the counter, she didn't just refill his cup and move on. She sat down across from him for 10 minutes before close, and they talked about small things. His grandson's Little League games, her sister's garden, the way Miller's used to make its pie crust before the new owners changed the recipe. Small things, ordinary things, the kind of things that, when you say them to the right person, stop being small at all. It took another 2 months before Harold worked up the nerve to ask her to dinner somewhere that wasn't a diner she had to close. It took her exactly 4 seconds to say yes. They were married 18 months later in the spring, in a small ceremony at the same church where Diane had married Frank 30 years before. Harold's daughter walked him down the aisle because he said his legs had gotten a little unsteady and he wanted somebody steady beside him. Diane wore a pale blue dress, not white, because she said white belonged to a chapter of her life that had already ended, beautifully, and this one deserved its own color. Miller's family diner still closes at 9 every night. Diane doesn't work there anymore. She retired the year they got married. But every so often, on a quiet evening, Harold drives her past the old window, and they sit in the car together, just to watch the new girl wipe down the counter and flip the sign. Some habits, it turns out, aren't about loneliness at all. Sometimes they're just love, waiting patiently in a corner booth for someone brave enough to finally ask why.